My name is Harold Bennett. I'm 64 years old. 3 nights ago, my wife and I stood on the edge of a mountain watching the sunset. That's when our only son pushed us off. I can still feel it. The wind tearing past my ears. Evelyn's fingers slipping away from mine. The ground disappearing beneath us. But here's what he didn't know. We'd already figured him out. Every lie, every scheme, every cold calculation. We'd seen it all coming. He thought he was getting rid of a problem. We were collecting evidence. He thought he was watching us fall to our deaths. We were buying ourselves time. Because sometimes, the only way to beat someone who wants you dead is to let them believe they've already won. Before I tell you how our son tried to erase us from existence, and how we made damn sure he'd pay for it, go ahead and subscribe. Hit that bell. Because what happened next isn't just our story. It's proof that no matter how long it takes, the truth always comes back around. For most of my life, I thought peace was something you could build if you worked hard enough at it. My hands are proof of that. 40 years of cutting wood, sanding it smooth, building furniture for people who had more money than Evelyn and I ever dreamed of. But we had what counted. A home. Laughter most nights. And a kind of love that just got better the longer we had it. Ashbury, Kentucky. That's where we lived. Still do, technically. It's the kind of town where people wave at you even if they don't know your name. Our place sat at the end of Maple Hollow Road, tucked back where you could smell pine and hear crickets instead of traffic. Evelyn made that house feel safe. She'd been a nurse at the clinic in town for years, patching up scraped knees and sitting with old folks who didn't have anyone else. She had this way of making people feel like they mattered. We had 2 boys. Michael came first. Then Connor, 4 years later. Michael was like his mother, steady and warm. The kind of kid who'd share his lunch without being asked. Connor had my brain, I think, but not my patience. Michael treated life like something to savor. Connor treated it like a competition he couldn't afford to lose. Sunday mornings, we'd all go to church. Afterward, we'd pile into Dottie's diner for pancakes. Evelyn would sit by the window where the light came in just right, and I'd look at her and think I must have done something right in a past life to end up here. Michael would go on about opening his own woodshop someday. Connor would just stir his coffee, barely saying a word except to mention how much better off we'd be if we thought bigger. I didn't worry about it much back then. Every family's got a dreamer and a cynic, right? At home, Michael would help me in the shop, sweeping up sawdust, learning how walnut feels different from oak. He had a gift for it. He used to say, "Dad, wood remembers how you treat it. Rush it, and it splinters." Connor wasn't interested. He'd stay inside with his business magazines or hunched over his computer. He wasn't lazy. Just somewhere else in his head. Always working out some angle nobody else could see. Evelyn tried to close the distance between them. "You're brothers," she'd say over dinner. "One day you'll need each other more than anyone else." Michael would smile and agree. Connor would say, "Maybe," and disappear into his room. But those years were good. Really good. Summers meant picnics out back, fireflies lighting up the yard, old songs crackling through the radio. I'd catch Evelyn humming while she hung the laundry, her hair catching the afternoon sun. If you'd asked me then, I would have told you I had everything a man could want. Evenings, after we'd eaten, Evelyn and I would walk the gravel road that curved behind the church. The sky would go all orange and purple, and she'd hold my hand just tight enough to say, "We made it through another one." Sometimes we'd talk about grandkids, or retiring near the lake, or maybe taking a real vacation once the business slowed down. We didn't have much, but it was enough. Looking back now, those walks feel like practice for the night we almost died. Because behind every peaceful moment, there's something coming you can't see yet. Connor was always restless. Even during the good times. When Michael got praise for a school project, Connor's face would go tight. When Michael graduated top of his class, Connor didn't clap. He just stared at the ground. Evelyn called it sibling rivalry. I called it ambition. Neither of us saw it for what it really was. Envy. The kind that grows teeth. There's one moment I can't shake. Michael had just finished his first rocking chair. A little wobbly, but beautiful. He asked Connor to try it. Connor sat down, rocked it twice, and said, "You're good. But you'll never make money doing this." Then he left. Michael laughed it off, but I saw the hurt. I should have said something. Should have told Connor that building your life on bitterness only guarantees it'll fall apart. But you always think you'll have time to say those things. You never do. Now when I think about those easy days, the smell of fresh sawdust, Evelyn laughing in the kitchen, the boys fighting over the last piece of pie, I realize how blind you can be when you're happy. We were too busy being grateful to notice the crack forming underneath everything. I blamed myself for a long time. For not seeing it sooner. But peace does that to you. It makes you deaf to the warning signs. And I didn't hear a damn thing until it was already too late. The autumn of 1998 still hits me like that. Gunpowder and rain. That's all I smell when I think about it. That's when we lost Michael. Our firstborn. 21 years old. He had plans. Real ones. The kind of kid who'd pull over in a downpour to help someone fix a flat tire. Just because. It was the first Sunday in October. Perfect fall day. Trees turning gold and red all over the hills. Michael and Connor went hunting up at Blackridge Hollow, this steep stretch of woods about 10 miles out. They'd been going there since they were kids, usually with me. But that weekend I had a job to finish, so I stayed back. Evelyn was in the kitchen baking pumpkin bread, humming along to the radio. The whole house smelled like cinnamon. Around sunset, I looked at the clock. They should have been home by then. Michael never missed dinner, especially when his mother was waiting. I told Evelyn not to worry. Maybe they stopped for food or gas. By 8, her hands were shaking. By 10, the bread was cold on the counter. By midnight, the sheriff was standing on our porch. They found Michael at the bottom of a rocky slope near the edge of the trail. Single gunshot earlier in the evening. Some hikers heard it, figured it was just part of the hunt. The sheriff said he must have slipped on loose ground, hit his head, rolled down into the gorge. Connor told them he'd gone ahead to load up the truck. Said he heard something fall but didn't see it happen. Claimed he ran back, saw Michael down there, and panicked. His story was clean. Too clean, maybe? I remember his face that night. Pale. No tears. His jaw locked tight like he was holding something back, but it didn't feel like grief. Evelyn collapsed into his arms, sobbing, and I just stood there in the doorway staring at Michael's boots by the steps. Still muddy. Still tied. Something broke in me that night. Quiet, like a crack spreading through wood you can't see. At the funeral, the whole town showed up. Casseroles, flowers, prayers. Evelyn wore black and didn't take it off for months. I buried my boy in the same churchyard as my father, next to the maple tree that's been watching over Bennett's for generations. Connor stood by the casket with his hands behind his back, staring at the ground. When the preacher talked about brotherly love, he didn't look up once. I wanted to reach out to him, tell him he wasn't alone. But every time I tried, something stopped me. There was this coldness around him. A distance that shouldn't be there when you're grieving. That night, after Evelyn finally cried herself to sleep, I went out to the workshop. The smell of varnish and cedar. Michael's last project was still on the bench. A toy chest for his future niece. His tools were scattered everywhere, measuring tape half pulled out, pencil sitting on the lid like he just stepped away for a minute. I whispered, "I'll finish it for you, son." Then I saw it. A faint red stain on one of the work rags Connor had used that week. My stomach dropped. Could have been paint. Could have been anything. But something in me already knew. The months after that blurred together. People offering condolences, either of us sleeping much. Evelyn tried to bring the house back to life. New curtains, a garden, anything to fill the silence. Connor stayed with us. Said he didn't want to leave us alone. He cooked, fixed things around the house, drove Evelyn to church every Sunday. To everyone else, he was the perfect son. But I'd catch him sometimes. staring at Michael's old photos with this look on his face. Not sadness. Not guilt. Just emptiness. Like he was studying something, figuring something out. One night I heard him muttering to himself in front of the framed picture on the mantel. He always got everything. The way he said it made my skin crawl. I didn't confront him. Not then. Maybe I couldn't stand the thought of losing another son. Maybe I thought I was imagining things. Maybe I still believed I could fix it somehow. That's what fathers do, right? We think we can fix anything. Until we can't. Years went by, but that autumn never really left our house. Every creak in the floorboards, every time it rained, it all came rushing back. Evelyn learned how to smile again, but it wasn't the same. Her laugh had this hollow sound to it. Like half of her was missing. If someone had told me back then that the same son who carried her groceries, who kissed her cheek every Sunday, would one day try to finish what he started at that gorge, I would have thought they'd lost their mind. But the truth doesn't care about your timing. It just waits. And when it finally shows up, it doesn't knock quietly. Years drifted by after Michael died. The house got cleaner, quieter. Too quiet. Evelyn said silence was healing. I knew it was just hiding things. Connor stayed with us for a while. Said he wanted to keep an eye on Mom. He fixed leaky faucets, mowed the lawn, even picked up some of my carpentry work. People around town ate it up. That boy's a saint after everything he's been through. He wore his grief like a costume. Perfect fit. Never wrinkled. Evelyn held on to him like he was the only thing keeping her afloat. I get it. When you lose one son, you pour everything you have left into the other. She started cooking all his favorites again. Apple cobbler on Sundays. Roast chicken on Wednesdays. He'd smile, kiss her on the cheek, tell her she was the best. But sometimes I'd see it. Just for half a second. His eyes would go hard and empty before the smile came back. I told myself I was seeing things. Maybe I wanted to be wrong. 5 years later, Connor met Emily. She worked at a real estate office in town. Pretty, charming, confident in that way people mistake for genuine. First time she came over, she brought Evelyn roses and called her mom before we even had dessert. Evelyn was hooked. Isn't she wonderful, Harold? She's polite, I said. Too polite. Like she practiced it. Evelyn just laughed. You've forgotten how to trust people. I hadn't forgotten. I just learned what happens when you trust the wrong ones. They got married within a year. Small ceremony behind the church, just family and a few friends. I built them a dining table as a wedding gift. When I dropped it off at their new place, I saw the basement. Boxes everywhere. Loan statements. Credit cards. Business plans. Connor said he was expanding the carpentry business, taking it to the next level. But the numbers on those folders told a different story. Debt. Overextension. Desperation. I didn't say anything. Time moved on. They had 2 kids, Noah and Grace. For a little while, things almost felt normal. They'd come by every weekend. The kids running around the yard like Michael used to. Evelyn would cook, Connor would fix something, Emily would help clean up. But every visit had an agenda. They'd ask about our savings, the business, whether we'd updated our will. Always disguised as concern. Mom, Dad, we just want to make sure you're taken care of in the future. You're not getting any younger, Dad. Someone needs to help manage things. If something happens, it's better if the house goes directly to family. We can handle the paperwork. Every word sounded right. Every sentence felt wrong. I started keeping a notebook. Just little things I noticed. Dates, phrases, odd moments. The way Connor's voice changed when I disagreed with him. The look Emily gave when Evelyn mentioned maybe selling some of my old tools. Small cracks where the truth was leaking through. One time I walked into the living room and caught them going through our filing cabinet. When they saw me, Emily laughed it off. Just looking for those insurance papers you said we could help organize. I never said anything about insurance papers. That night I locked the cabinet and moved the key. Evelyn told me I was being paranoid. Harold, he's our son. He wouldn't hurt us. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But I couldn't shake the feeling that our family dinners had turned into business meetings we never agreed to. One Sunday after church, Connor pulled me aside in the yard. His voice was friendly enough, but his eyes were flat. Dad, it's time to start thinking smart. You've worked hard your whole life, but the way things are, you're sitting on assets that aren't being used efficiently. Assets. That's what he called it. The home his mother built. The land where his brother grew up. The same ground where his brother was buried. I said, "This house isn't an investment. It's our life." He smiled. "It can be both." That night I sat out on the porch with Evelyn. Stars were out, bright and cold. She rested her head on my shoulder and said, "I think he's just worried about us." "That's love, Harold." I stared up at the sky. "Then why does his love feel like a business deal?" Next morning, I found a real estate brochure in our mailbox. From Emily's company. The front page said, "Downsize for peace. Upgrade your life." Felt less like advice. More like a threat. By then, the mask was slipping. Connor's visits got more frequent. His tone more demanding. Evelyn tried to keep everyone happy, but I could see the strain starting to show on her face. He'd become a master at pretending. Dutiful son. Caring husband. Loving father. But underneath all that, I could see the same hunger that took Michael from us. And I knew it was only a matter of time before it came for us too. By the time Evelyn and I hit 60, life had settled into something comfortable. Coffee on the porch every morning. Walks before lunch. Old westerns on TV at night. But peace doesn't stick around long when greed is living under your own roof. It started with a visit that looked normal enough. Connor and Emily showed up on a Saturday with pie and those rehearsed smiles. They played with the kids in the yard, asked how we were feeling, and right when I thought maybe things were getting better, Connor cleared his throat. "Dad, we should talk about the future." I knew that voice. Professional. Polite. Calculated. He sat down across from us at the kitchen table and spread out some folders like he was pitching investors. Estate planning brochures. Insurance policies. Trust documents. Emily sat next to him, holding Evelyn's hand, her voice all soft and careful. "We're just thinking ahead, Mom. If anything ever happened, it'd be better if Connor could handle things quickly. No red tape." I glanced at Evelyn. She was smiling. Almost relieved that someone was taking charge. That's how they work, the smart ones. They make control look like care. Connor kept talking, smooth as anything. "All we're suggesting is power of attorney. It's just paperwork. Doesn't change a thing. Just makes life easier if you're ever in the hospital or can't sign stuff yourselves." He said it so gently that Evelyn was nodding before I could even open my mouth. I wanted to say something, but the room felt wrong. Like I was the bad guy for not trusting my own son. "We'll think about it," I said. "Of course, Dad," he replied. Voice warm. Eyes cold. No rush. But the sooner the safer. That night I sat out on the porch alone. The stars looked far away. Same way they did the night Michael died. I could feel it happening again, only this time I was awake enough to see it coming. Over the next few weeks, Connor and Emily were there constantly. Bringing dinner, fixing light bulbs, cleaning gutters. All of it framed as helping out. But every favor came with a conversation about smart financial moves. Emily's words were always wrapped in concern. "Mom, this house is so big. Too big for just the two of you. The stairs alone are dangerous. Why not sell and move into something smaller? Something safer? You could be close to us," Connor added. "Close to the grandkids." Evelyn's face lit up at that. She wanted family, not money. They knew it. And they used it. I started noticing Connor's questions getting more specific. "How much is your life insurance again, Dad? The mortgage is paid off, right? Where do you keep the business papers?" Each one felt like a countdown. One night, after another family dinner that felt more like a negotiation, I confronted Evelyn in the kitchen. He's not helping, Evie. He's circling. She sighed. Looked tired. Eyes wet. You always think the worst. He's trying to take care of us. That's what sons do. Sons don't ask for power of attorney over their living parents, I said. Not unless they're planning to use it. She went quiet. That was the first real distance between us in 40 years. I could see her fighting with herself. Fear versus loyalty. She loved him. Blind, motherly, unconditional. I almost envied her for still being able to feel that way. A few weeks later we met with Mr. Davidson, our family lawyer. He'd known us for decades. Still wrote everything by hand. It's smart to get your affairs in order, he said. But Harold, you look uneasy. Just doing what the kids want. I lied. He adjusted his glasses. You can always draft the documents but not activate them until you're ready. Don't sign anything you don't understand. I nodded. But the truth was, Connor understood everything. He'd already talked to Davidson privately. Papers were ready that would transfer joint ownership of the house for legal convenience. When I read the fine print that night, my hands went cold. It didn't just make things convenient. It made us vulnerable. If we died, everything would go straight to him. Even the grandkids would be cut out. That's when I knew. This wasn't about protecting us. It was about access. I didn't sign. But Evelyn did. She said she didn't want Connor to feel like we didn't trust him. I wanted to scream, but the damage was already done. Next morning, Emily showed up alone. Brought muffins. Smile like sugar. We'll take good care of you both, she said, setting the basket on the table. Then, almost like she was making small talk, she added, You know, you should really check the water heater. Gas leaks are common in old houses like this. Her words stuck with me long after she left. I went down to the basement that afternoon. The gas valve had been twisted half open. Coincidence? Maybe. But coincidence shouldn't smell like propane. That night I replaced the locks and installed a small camera above the basement steps. Evelyn was furious when she noticed. You're losing your mind, she said. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was finally waking up. Over the next month, little things started happening. A step stool left on the staircase landing. Our car's brake lines sliced clean, though Connor blamed old rubber. A phone call from the insurance company asking to confirm a change of beneficiary. A change neither of us had made. I felt the walls closing in. Connor called the next evening. Voice calm. Almost cheerful. Dad, Emily and I were talking. We should celebrate your anniversary this year. Really celebrate. A trip. Just the four of us. Fresh air. New memories. You'll love it. The second he said trip, I knew. Didn't matter where. The plan was already moving. Evelyn smiled when I told her. Maybe it's his way of reconnecting. I looked at her and whispered. Or finishing what he started. That night I opened my drawer and pulled out an old digital recorder I used to use for client orders in the workshop. Replaced the batteries. Tested the mic, hid it in my jacket pocket. If Connor wanted to play a long game, he was about to find out his father still knew how to build things that lasted. Including evidence. That night felt heavier than any I can remember. The air outside was thick and still, like a storm holding its breath. Evelyn was at the sink washing dishes, humming something soft and automatic. I'd spent the whole evening replaying what Connor said about the trip, hearing what he wasn't saying underneath all that sweetness. Something broke in me. 25 years of keeping quiet was enough. Evie, I said. My voice came out shakier than I meant it to. She turned around, surprised. What is it, Harold? I looked at her hands. The same hands that bandaged our boy's knees. That held me through every bad year, every loss. She deserved the truth. Even if it destroyed her. I need to tell you something about Michael's death. All the color drained from her face. She set the towel down slow, like the air had turned fragile. Harold, what do you mean? I swallowed hard. My chest felt like it was caving in. I wasn't honest with you back then. That night, I didn't stay home the whole time. I went after them. After the boys. She went completely still. The only sound was the faucet dripping. I saw them, I said. Michael and Connor were arguing by the ravine. It wasn't about hunting. It was about money. Money? Her voice cracked. Michael found out Connor had been stealing from our savings. Small amounts at first. 50 here, 100 there. But it added up. Michael confronted him. I was still far enough back, but I could hear them shouting. Michael told him he was going to tell us everything. Evelyn's hand went to her mouth. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't say anything. Connor lost it, I said. Started yelling about how Michael was always the favorite, how he never got anything without working twice as hard for it. Then Michael said something, I don't even remember what, and Connor shoved him. Hard. Her gasp cut right through me. You mean? I saw him fall, I whispered. He stumbled backward, hit the slope, and rolled out of sight. I ran, but by the time I got there, it was too late. For a long time, she didn't move. Then she whispered, You told me it was an accident. I wanted to believe it was, I said. Connor was shaking, crying, saying over and over, It was an accident, Dad. He slipped. Please don't tell Mom. God forgive me, I believed him. Or maybe I just needed to. Losing one son felt unbearable. Losing both. I couldn't do it. Evelyn backed up against the counter, gripping the edge like she'd fall if she let go. You let me mourn our child without knowing the truth. I thought I was protecting you, I said quietly. But I was protecting a killer. Tears ran down her face. For a while either of us spoke. Just the refrigerator humming and the clock ticking on the wall. Then she asked, voice shaking, Do you think he'd do it again? I didn't hesitate. He already is. She blinked, confused. I slid a folder across the table. Copies I'd made from the lawyer's office that week. Connor's business is bankrupt. He owes close to $100,000 to private lenders. He's been stealing from us again for years. Every investment he talked about was just covering his tracks. That trip he's planning? It's not a vacation. It's an opportunity. Her breathing got faster. You mean? He's planning to kill us, I said. And make it look like an accident. Just like Michael. She covered her face with both hands and sobbed. I came around the table and pulled her close. She felt so small, shaking in my arms. How long have you known? She whispered. Not long. But long enough to stop pretending. We sat there holding each other, the truth sitting between us like something sharp and cold. For the first time in decades, there were no secrets left. Just fear. Raw and real. After a long while, Evelyn lifted her head. Her face was streaked with tears. Then we have to go to the police. I wanted to agree. God, I wanted to. But I shook my head. And tell them what? That our son killed his brother 25 years ago? That he's planning to kill us next? We don't have proof. Just suspicion. An assigned power of attorney that makes it look like we trust him completely. She went quiet, realizing the trap we were in. So what do we do? She asked finally. I took a deep breath. We play along. Her eyes went wide. Play along? Yes, I said. We go on that trip. We act grateful, act clueless, act exactly how he expects us to. But this time, we're ready. I pulled the small digital recorder from my pocket and set it on the table. The red light blinked soft. This thing saved me from bad contracts in the workshop. It's going to save our lives now. Evelyn stared at it, trembling. Harold, you're talking about setting a trap. I'm talking about finally getting him justice, I said. I couldn't save Michael back then. But I can make sure Connor never hurts anyone else. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. If we do this, we have to be careful. We will, I said. I'll keep the recorder with me the whole time. Hidden under my jacket. If he confesses, if they say anything, we'll have it all. Evelyn wiped her eyes and took my hand. Promise me something. Anything. If we don't make it back, promise me someone will know the truth. Already done, I said. I wrote a letter to Mr. Davidson. Told him if anything happens to us, check the voice recordings on my phone and the recorder. I gave a copy of our old financial files to his assistant too. If we disappear, he'll know where to look. Evelyn looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. The man who built her a home out of love, now building their survival out of fear. Then I guess we're not victims, she whispered. We're witnesses waiting to testify. I nodded. Exactly. We sat there until midnight, planning quietly. What to pack. How to act. Which lies to tell and which truths to hold on to. Every detail mattered. When we finally got into bed, Evelyn curled up against me, her tears soaking through my shirt. I wish you told me sooner, she said softly. I wish I had too, I murmured. But back then, I thought silence kept us safe. She sighed. And now? Now I know silence only feeds monsters. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. First drops of rain hitting the roof. The storm had finally arrived. And by morning, so would our reckoning. Connor called on a Tuesday evening. The kind of hour people pick when they don't want you thinking too hard. Dad, Mom, Emily and I found this place up in Laurel Ridge. Easy trails, great views, perfect for photos at sunset. We'll drive. No worries. Happy 40th, okay? He made it sound like a gift. To me, it sounded like a date stamped on a headstone. I told him it was thoughtful. He said it was nothing. He always said that when it was everything. After he hung up, Evelyn stood at the counter, staring at me like we were already at the edge. We go, she whispered. We go, I said. But we don't go empty-handed. Not guns. Truth. And a way to capture it. That night I laid everything out on the kitchen table. The digital recorder. Fresh batteries. A spare memory card. My old flip knife I'd carried for 40 years, not for fighting, just for cutting rope and opening stubborn things. I added something else too. A cheap fitness watch I'd bought months back when the doctor told me to walk more. Never used it. But I'd read the manual. It could record audio with a long press, store it locally, sync later. Not perfect. But backup. Evelyn packed our things with a calm I wished I had. 2 days' worth of clothes. Light layers. Rain shells. Her pill case. Bandages. 2 protein bars she hated but always kept for emergencies. She packed the family Bible too. For courage, she said. I didn't argue. Before bed, I emailed Mr. Davidson using the subject line we'd agreed on years ago for serious matters. Bench varnish. A code from the shop. Something no one else would recognize. In the message, I wrote 3 sentences. If we don't call you by Monday at 10 a.m., open the package in your bottom right drawer. Then call Sheriff Maddox. Ask for the recorded materials. He'd know what to do. He'd known us longer than most people know themselves. Evelyn slid a note into the family Bible, marking Psalm 27. On the note she wrote it all in a few lines. If I don't come back, this was Connor. He killed Michael. Harold saw it. We have evidence. She tucked it deep and closed the cover with both hands, like the book itself could protect us. I didn't sleep, but morning came anyway. It always does. Connor and Emily showed up early, the way people do when they want control from minute one. Emily wore a camera around her neck and a smile that looked practiced. Connor carried a new day pack, tags freshly cut, logo shining. We'll take our car, he said. More room. Safer. I nodded. Safer for who? On the drive, Emily put on a playlist called Road Peace. Soft piano. Church quiet. Connor talked about trail safety like a tour guide. Wide shoulders. Low grade. Plenty of railings. He offered facts the way liars offer alibis. Before anyone asks. Evelyn squeezed my hand between us on the seat. 3 squeezes. Our code. I'm here. I'm steady. I'm ready. We passed the last gas station before the foothills. Connor filled up, cleaned the windshield, whistled while he worked. I watched our reflections in the glass. 4 faces. Only 2 of us knew what was coming. Back on the road, I long pressed the watch button in my pocket until I felt the tiny buzz. Recording. Then I did the same with the digital recorder, one in my jacket, one inside the liner of my cap where I'd cut the seam and stitched it back. If Connor went for my pockets, he'd find the decoy. If he patted me down, he'd still miss the one in the brim. A few miles from the trailhead, a park ranger truck passed us going the other way. The driver lifted 2 fingers off the wheel in greeting. Something settled in my chest. Proof that good people still existed outside this car. That mattered. We pulled into Laurel Ridge at 10:42. The sky was clear blue from the night's rain. Bright like glass. The air smelled like pine and wet stone, full of birdsong. The kind you only hear when your life's about to change. Perfect day, Emily said like she'd ordered it herself. Connor opened the back and did inventory out loud. Rope. Harness. Water. First aid kit. Portable flare. Safety, safety, safety. Every word leading up to the one moment he meant to be unsafe. He handed Evelyn a hiking pole and me the other. Take your time, he said. We'll keep pace with you. We signed the trail register at the kiosk. That simple act, names on a line, felt heavier than it should have. People think names save you. They don't. But sometimes they raise the right questions when you can't. We started on the Laurel Loop. Wide enough you could push a stroller down half of it. For the first 20 minutes, everything felt almost normal. Gravel crunching. Sun through leaves. Emily taking photos of ferns like she'd never seen green before. Connor kept up a light conversation behind us. Town gossip. The shop's latest order. Noah's science project. Painting ordinary around us. Careful brushstrokes to hide the edge we were walking toward. At the first overlook, he made us stop for water and posed us for a picture. Me with my arm around Evelyn, the valley opening up behind us. He framed it carefully. If you want to know a man's intent, watch what he frames. One more, Emily said, stepping back, squinting at the screen. Tilt left just a bit, Harold. Perfect. Always that word with them. Perfect. We kept moving. The path narrowed, leaned toward the drop. I felt it in my ankles, in the way gravel skittered down the slope and kept going. A news sign warned. Caution, unstable ledge. Stay on marked trail. Emily photographed the sign and laughed softly, like the world was writing captions for her. The spruce spur cuts toward the old fire tower, Connor said, pointing to a smaller trail branching off. Fewer people. Better views. Gentle grade, I promise. Evelyn glanced at me. The watch tried to auto-sleep. I pressed the button without looking. Keep listening. We followed them onto the spur. The quiet changed. Sounds got closer, sharper. You could hear each footstep. Count the distance of a cough. Almost there, Emily said, pointing to a rock shelf jutting out over the trees. Sunlight hits the river from that ledge. Makes it look like a ribbon. You'll love it. We reached the shelf. 10 yards across, maybe 6 deep. Mountain laurel at the back edge. Open sky beyond the stone lip. No railings. No mercy. Connor stood behind us, hands in his pockets, measuring. Emily lifted the camera with her softest smile. Let me take a few, she said. Face each other first. Then turn to the valley. Evelyn moved close to my side. I felt her ribs through her jacket. I thought about Michael's unfinished toy chest. The maple tree over his grave. The ways men bury what they can't fix. Emily snapped a photo. Beautiful, she murmured. Now one step back, both of you. I want the full view. There it was. The line. The cue. The edge disguised as a suggestion. I took half a step. Evelyn took none. I think we're close enough, I said. Connor's shadow moved. Dad, trust me, he said, that old phrase with a new meaning. Just a little more. I turned toward him, pretending to adjust my cap. Pressed the recorder in the brim. Tiny click. The day didn't hear it. I hoped the future would. We're fine here, I said again. Silence stretched thin. Then Connor exhaled, easy and charming. Sure thing. He stepped closer anyway, to help us balance, hands floating near our backs. Not touching. Measuring the distance between his palms and the life he wanted to erase. Evelyn spoke, voice steady. Emily, get in with us for one. Brilliant. Innocent. Impossible to refuse without looking rude. Emily laughed, set the camera to timer, propped it on a rock, and hurried to stand beside us. 3, 2, 1. The shutter clicked. She ran back, checked the screen, nodded. Perfect. That word again. Okay, one last one, just you two, she said, lifting the camera, stepping back toward the brush instead of the edge this time. An adjustment. She wanted us facing forward. Not looking at Connor. I felt his breath behind me. Mint and something metallic. Wind came up across the stone. The world narrowed to footsteps and angles. Dad, he said softly, like sharing a family secret. You always told me to finish what I start. That sentence rang like a bell. Not proof on its own, but a hinge. If he pushed now, the recording had context. If he spoke again, it had teeth. I let my heel drift an inch. Just enough to invite impatience. Careful, Evelyn whispered, for them as much as us. Connor moved. Not a shove. A surge. The kind meant to jolt balance, let gravity do the ugly work. His fingers brushed my jacket. Too quick for a hug. Too firm for help. I pivoted on my front foot, the carpenter's turn, and grabbed for the scrub with my left hand like I was fighting for life. My right arm shot across Evelyn's waist, pulling her in. We tilted, slipped, and the world dropped. Hard and fast. Stone tore skin off my knuckles. Air punched out of me. The ledge below, one-eyed marked on the way in, caught us with brutal kindness. We tumbled into brush and slammed to a stop in a pocket just wide enough for two. Every cell in my body screamed, then went quiet. Above us, the shelf hummed with silence. The kind that means people are deciding what they are. Evelyn's mouth found my ear. Don't move, she breathed. Play dead? I let my head fall. Slowed my breathing to almost nothing. Waited. For a long beat, nothing. Then Emily's voice, sharp and breathless. Did they? Connor cut her off, whisper shouting. Don't look over. We stick to the story. They slipped. We tried to grab them. We call for help. We're devastated. You hear me? My watch ticked against my wrist, recording every word like a metronome for a future jury. Emily swallowed. The ropes, should we? No ropes, he hissed. No marks. No questions. He paused, then added, quieter, almost reverent. It's done. The sun warmed my cheek where blood had dried. A fly landed left. I stayed still. Evelyn didn't tremble. Neither did I. Boots scuffed the stone above. A camera shutter clicked. Then footsteps retreated toward the main trail. Hushed voices. Rehearsed panic. When they were far enough, I let one breath shudder out and pressed my jaw to trigger the cap mic again. Paranoid. Redundant. Necessary. Evelyn squeezed my hand. 1, 2, 3. I'm here. I'm steady. I'm ready. Somewhere, a hawk cut through the sky. Somewhere, a ranger's truck rolled across gravel. Somewhere, the truth kept walking toward us. Slow but sure. We'd fallen. But we hadn't broken. We'd given them the performance they expected. Now we needed the witnesses it deserved. The world didn't end when we hit that lower ledge. It just narrowed down to blood rushing in my ears and the smell of crushed pine needles against my face. My ribs were on fire. My right arm throbbed. But I was alive. So was Evelyn. Her eyes found mine. Wild, wet, but not broken. Above us, Connor's voice cut through the air. They fell! Oh my God, they fell! I tried to grab them. His performance started before the echo of our fall even stopped. Emily's voice shook with fake panic. Should we call 911? Yes, Connor snapped, already switching modes. Do it! Hurry! We stayed still, breathing shallow, letting them write their script. Every word was proof. Every syllable another nail. The wind shifted. I heard gravel crunching as Connor paced near the edge. Stay back, he said. The ledge is unstable. He sounded like a concerned son. A hero in his own story. I pressed my cap deeper into the dirt, making sure the recorder stayed facing up. The tiny red light still blinked. Evelyn's hand found mine. 3 squeezes. Alive. Waiting. Listening. Minutes crawled by. Leaves rustled. Somewhere below, the stream gurgled like nothing had happened. Then came the words I'd been waiting for. The kind no courtroom could ignore. It's done, Connor whispered. Voice low but sharp. We have to make it look real, Emily replied. Tears. Shaking. You know the drill. I know, he said, exhaling hard. God, I can't believe it actually worked. After all these years. Finally. My stomach turned, but I didn't move. The recorder caught everything. Emily continued colder now. Once the report's clear, you'll transfer the property, right? The accounts? Yes, Connor said. Give it a week. 2 tops. Then we're free. Free. That word hung there like poison. They stayed another minute. Rustling. Staging. Emily took pictures. Connor pretended to shout for help. Theater. And they believed their own performance. When their footsteps faded, I finally breathed. Evelyn whispered, Are you recording? Every word. Blood had matted her hair near the temple, but her eyes burned. Then let's make it count. We waited. 15 minutes. Then 20. When their voices were long gone, I grabbed a root above me and slowly pulled myself up. Pain tore through my ribs, but I kept going. I looked over the edge. 30 feet between our ledge and the main trail. Doable. Dangerous, but doable. Stay still, I whispered. I'll find a way up. She shook her head. You can't leave me here. I'm not. I'm going to loop around. Get to the ranger's path. We can't make noise yet. They need to think we're gone. She knew I was right. Didn't make it easier. I kissed her forehead. If I'm not back in 30 minutes, crawl to the marker rock. There's an old deer trail. Take it east. It leads to the fire road. Evelyn nodded, biting her lip. Be careful, Harold. Always. I started climbing. Slow. Deliberate. My fingers slipped twice, scraping rock, but I kept moving. I thought about Michael. How his life ended on a slope like this. How my silence let that memory rot inside our family. Never again. When I reached the ridge, I stayed low, peering through brush. Connor and Emily stood by their car with phones out, talking fast. The fake panic in their movements almost made me laugh. Emily wiping her eyes with tissue. Connor showing a ranger the trailhead, pointing toward the overlook like he was describing someone else's tragedy. A second ranger was already heading up with ropes and rescue gear. They'd called for help. Of course they had. They needed witnesses for their story. But we were ready for that too. When the first rescuer reached the overlook, Connor repeated his version. We stopped for a photo and the edge just gave out. They fell before I could reach them. Please, you have to hurry. He even dropped to his knees, clutching the rail, shaking his head. Oscar-worthy. The ranger nodded, scanning the slope below. He shouted something I couldn't catch, then waved for his partner to follow the path down. I ducked behind a pine as they got closer. Waited until they reached the bend, then raised my hand and whispered, Down here. The ranger froze. Sir? Sir, are you hurt? Keep it quiet, I said. They think we're dead. His eyes went wide as I handed him the recorder. You'll want to hear this before you do anything. He played back a few seconds. Enough to hear Connor's voice clearly. His face went pale. Holy hell. Help my wife first, I said. She's down there. Within minutes, ropes were dropping, radios crackling, voices filling the ravine. Connor's face turned into a mask of confusion when he saw the Ranger signaling two alive. His mouth moved but nothing came out. Emily gasped, grabbing his arm. That's impossible. I'll never forget the look on their faces when Evelyn's head appeared over the ledge. Dirt-streaked, bloodied, but alive. First time in years I saw real fear in my son's eyes. And it didn't belong to us anymore. As they lifted me next, I caught the Ranger whispering into his radio. Behind him, Connor stepped back, his face flickering between relief and panic. He was recalculating. Searching for a story that still worked. Dad, he said as I reached the top, forcing a shaky smile. Thank God you're okay. We thought. Save it, I said. You're going to want to stop talking soon. He blinked. The mask cracked just enough for me to see what was underneath. The Ranger looked between us, uncertain, until another officer jogged up from the lot with a body camera already recording. Sir, we need you both to stay where you are. Connor tried to protest, but the Ranger held up a hand. We'll sort this out. Just don't move. As Evelyn and I were guided toward the ambulance, I turned to the officer holding my recorder. Copy everything, I said quietly. And send it to Sheriff Maddox. Tell him to listen from the 21st minute. He nodded once. Serious. Evelyn leaned on me as paramedics checked her pulse. We made it, she whispered. Not yet, I said. Not until he's behind bars. Connor stood a few yards away. Emily whispering furiously in his ear. He wasn't the confident man from earlier. His shoulders were tight. His smile gone. He'd spent his life thinking lies were enough to bury the truth. But that day, the truth climbed out of the ground. Bruised, breathing, and wearing our faces. They took us to St. Mary's Regional Hospital. The same one where Evelyn had given birth to both our sons decades ago. Strange how a building that once echoed with new life could now smell like justice waiting to happen. My ribs were fractured. Evelyn's leg was in a splint. We were beaten up pretty bad, but not broken. I was lying there in that white room, oxygen hissing soft, when a detective with silver hair walked in. His badge caught the morning light. Mr. Bennett, he said. I'm Detective Harper. I've listened to the recording. He didn't need to say more. His voice carried the weight of what he'd heard. My son's whisper. Emily's confession. Every word of betrayal trapped in ones and zeros. You're safe now, Harper said. And they won't be for long. He turned to Evelyn, whose eyes were red from exhaustion. We'll need your statements, but we already have enough. Your son and daughter-in-law confessed more in that recording than most criminals do in a lifetime. Evelyn's voice cracked. So it's over? He paused. The kind only seasoned cops know how to use. For them, yes. But for you, it's just starting. That evening, I woke to voices in the hallway. Through the half-open door, I saw Connor and Emily standing between two uniformed officers. Emily was crying, fake tears catching the fluorescent light. Connor looked empty, like someone who just realized the game was over and he never had the winning hand. When he saw me watching, he tried to smile. Dad, this is a mistake. They twisted everything. Stop, I said quietly. My voice came out hoarse but steady. You've been twisting things your whole life. It's time they straightened you out. For the first time since Michael's death, he had nothing to say. No excuses. No practice lines. Just silence. 25 years overdue. The officers cuffed him. His wrists clicked together like a gavel falling. Emily started screaming, blaming him, saying it was all his idea, his plan. But Harper's team had already pulled enough from both of them. Two sets of lies that canceled each other out and showed the truth. As they were led away, Connor turned one last time. You set me up, he hissed. I met his eyes. Eyes I'd watched open for the first time in a hospital just like this one. No, I said. You set yourself up. I just stopped pretending you wouldn't. The trial became national news. Parents survive murder attempt by son. The headlines painted us as heroes, but I didn't feel heroic. I felt tired. Worn out. Like someone who'd finally drained the poison from their system. Evelyn testified first. She talked about the trip, the manipulation, the years of slow betrayal that built to one terrible act. The courtroom was silent except for benches creaking and pens scratching. When it was my turn, I looked straight at Connor. You took everything your mother and I built and turned it into a weapon, I said. But you forgot something. Truth doesn't rot. It waits. He stared down at the table, his lawyer whispering frantically beside him. But Connor didn't answer. He couldn't. The recording sealed it. The jury took 1 hour to deliver their verdict. Guilty. All counts. Attempted murder. Conspiracy. And the murder of Michael Bennett 25 years ago. Emily got the same sentence. Life without parole. When the verdict was read, she collapsed crying. Finally sounded real, not out of guilt, but fear. Connor just stared ahead, eyes dull, like he'd finally understood what forever actually meant. Weeks later, Evelyn and I came home. The house was quiet, full of memories but somehow cleaner now. The sheriff stopped by that afternoon with 2 small boxes. Our recorder and my old cap. Evidence is cleared, he said. Thought you might want these back. I held that cap for a long time, tracing the scene where the recorder had been hidden. It still smelled faintly of pine and fear and something else. Victory, maybe? That night, Evelyn and I sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, watching the sunset over the same woods where everything almost ended. The air was still. The world felt wide again. Do you think Michael would forgive us? She asked softly. I took her hand. He already has. We made sure his truth didn't die in that ravine. She smiled faintly. Then maybe we can finally live again. For a while we just listened. Crickets. Wind. The sound of our hearts slowing down after years of running. Then came smaller footsteps. The kind that make every bruise worth it. Our grandchildren. 2 small faces we hadn't seen since that day. They came running across the yard, guided by a social worker who hung back at the gate. They hesitated when they saw us, unsure. Evelyn knelt down despite her healing leg, opening her arms. It's all right, sweetheart, she whispered. You're safe now. The little girl, Sophie, rushed into her grandmother's arms. The boy followed, clutching his toy truck. They smelled like sunshine and innocence. Like the life we thought we'd lost. That night, after the children were asleep, I stood at the window watching moonlight touch their faces. Evelyn joined me, slipping her hand into mine. They deserve the truth one day, she said. They'll get it, I promised. But not tonight. Tonight they just deserve peace. She rested her head on my shoulder. Do you ever think about what you'd have done differently? I thought about it. About Michael. About silence. About second chances bought with blood and forgiveness. I'd still fall, I said finally. But this time, I'd aim to land where truth could find me. Evelyn smiled, her fingers tightening around mine. Then maybe the fall wasn't the end after all. No, I said, watching dawn spread across the sky. It was the beginning of finally standing again. Sometimes justice doesn't arrive in sirens or verdicts. It comes quietly, through the rustle of leaves over a grave, or the laughter of children who'll never know the lies that almost buried their family. I lost a son to greed and another to the truth. But I gained something else. Peace. If you've made it this far, let this story remind you. Evil often hides behind familiar faces, but so does strength. And if you ever find yourself pushed to the edge, remember this. Sometimes the fall isn't what kills you. Sometimes it's what teaches you how to rise.